Now, President-elect Donald Trump has been nominating some might say controversial figures to lead his new government, including the vaccine skeptic Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who Trump has tapped up to lead the Department of Health. Joining us now is John Bellinger III, a lawyer and former legal advisor under George Bush, who shepherded Condoleezza Rice through her Senate confirmation process, and countless other nominees who had to go through the Senate confirmation itself. John, good afternoon.
Nice to be with you.
John, just talk us through the confirmation process, because what we are given to understand here, Donald Trump has put forward his nominees for his cabinet. The Republicans have got a majority in the Senate and in the House as well. So what can stand in his way?
So for a presidential appointment that requires Senate confirmation, and not all senior positions do, but for cabinet officials do, there are two parts to the process. The president makes a decision and nominates the person, and that's usually a lengthy vetting process simply to make the decision. Not clear that President Trump has been following that normal process. After the individual is nominated, the nomination goes to the Senate, and the Senate has to approve those nominations by a majority vote. Now, there's a committee hearing for committees of jurisdiction for each of the cabinet secretaries that has a hearing, and then it goes to a full vote of the Senate. Right now, a number of senators have already expressed some concern about a number of the controversial picks that President-elect Trump has made, such as Matt Gaetz to be Attorney General, who is facing an investigation for having sex with a minor. That's the Attorney General nominee. Or another, his nomination to be Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, who is a Fox News anchor, but with little government experience, and who also recently now is facing allegations of sexual assault. So it's not clear. Normally, those kinds of allegations historically would doom a nomination and confirmation in the Senate. Right now, because so many of the senators really want to follow Donald Trump's lead, it's not clear whether a majority will just go ahead and hold their noses and vote for these people. Several Republican senators have already said that they would not vote for Matt Gaetz. So we'll have to see what happens.
The other storyline that has come about as well, John, is this idea that if the Senate is not sitting, then the president can pass his appointments without too much scrutiny. Could you shed some light on that?
Yes, well, as we all know, Donald Trump breaks every norm, and he has said right at the beginning that the Senate should not block any of his appointments, and in fact should go on recess and just allow appointments to go through without confirmation. Our Constitution, going all the way back to the beginning, has said that although the Senate must approve certain positions, if the Senate is not sitting in session, that they're out on recess, essentially out on leave, then the president can simply appoint someone without Senate confirmation. Our Supreme Court a few years ago said that the Senate has to go out for at least 10 days for that to happen. Presidents of both parties have historically made a number of recess appointments when the Senate's out, but never at the beginning of an administration like this has a president essentially threatened the Senate and told them that they just should go out on recess, and so that the president's picks don't have to go through the confirmation process. Again, it's not clear whether the Senate, even with a Republican majority of 53 people, will really roll over and do that. And they'd have to go out for 10 days to do it, giving up on other business. I'd frankly be quite surprised if the Senate, even with all of the Trump supporters in controlling a majority of the Senate, would really agree to simply go on recess for 10 days so that they didn't have to go through the confirmation process. They are reluctant generally to give up their power under the Constitution.
Is this a test of loyalty, John? Some people have said that some of these appointments are deliberately put in place by Trump to test the loyalty of the House of Representatives and the Senate, to basically weed out who's going to stand in his way and who is going to go along with his wishes. Is that the showdown that Trump is building up to?
Well, I don't think that's the specific intent, but I think that is going to be the effect. I think the specific intent of some of these controversial nominations, like Congressman Gates to be Attorney General or Pete Hegseth to be Secretary of Defense, are these are people who Donald Trump thinks will be completely loyal to him. No questions asked as his Attorney General, completely loyal. And I think Donald Trump is probably also enjoying, really, as we've heard his supporters say, making the liberals' heads spin by these nominations. But you're correct. As a secondary effect, it really will be a test of loyalty for the Senate. I am sure many Republican senators, even ones who support Donald Trump, are not relishing having to vote in favor or against an attorney general nominee who has been investigated for sexual activity with a minor. Many of these, I'm sure, are really pretty angry about this and would like to avoid having to do it. So it will, in fact, be a test of loyalty. Will they go ahead and roll over and vote for Donald Trump's nominees? Or will they, in fact, show some institutional backbone and say, we, the Senate, have got an important responsibility here. Historically, the Senate would not have considered some people like this to be qualified, and will they buck Donald Trump? So it is setting up a showdown right at the very beginning.
Well, let's see what will happen. John, thank you so much for giving us your time. John Bellinger, their lawyer and partner at Arnold and Palmer and former legal advisor for the U.S. Department of State and National Security Council during the George W. Bush administration.